to the 16th edition of the Arab Film Festival in Berlin, ALFILM. My name is Iskandar Abdalla. I am the artistic director of the festival, and very excited for this panel, which is for me definitely one of the highlights. With Farah, Samira, and Leila, I will introduce them properly in a minute. Just a change in plans. Farah almost had an accident, but luckily her flight was cancelled, and we have her in Zoom instead of her physical presence. But we're very happy that we're still having her with us. Yeah, just a minute to sort out my notes. Before I introduce my guest, I just want to say a few words about the idea of this panel. The idea came from the observation of the program team that family histories, particularly those of one's own fathers and mothers, have increasingly become a popular genre of plot subject in Arab documentary cinema across the region, but also in the diaspora. And if we look back only in the repertoire of ALFILM in the last year, just as an example, we will find that in every edition we had at least one or two films that tackle this subject, filmmakers making films about their own family, their fathers or mothers. Like, just to mention a few examples, last year we opened with Linus Williams' Bye Bye Tiberias, about Hayam Abbas, her mother, and she said also in the film talk that she was doing this film about Hayam, the mother, not the star. Before that, we also screened Little Algeria, which was not about her father, but the family of her father, her grandparents. Last year, there was also Background by Khaled Abdelgawad from Syria. He lives in Leipzig. Q by Jude Shihab. And My Lost Country from Iraq, Iraqi Ishtar Yassin Gutierrez. I'm not sure if I'm spelling her name correctly. 2023, we had Corinne Shawi, Perhaps What I Fear Does Not Exist, about her father and his journey with sickness, and so on and so forth. Before that, Little Eagles from Egypt by Muhammad Rashad. Even this edition, we have also Abu Za'bal by Bassam Murtada. It's also a film about his father and the time he spent under arrest in Egypt in one of the most horrible prisons, Abu Za'bal. So the prominence of this subject or genre tells us much more than just something about the taste of the ALFILM's program teams, and it kind of prompts many questions that deserve closer attention. Can we speak of a family genre within Arab documentary landscape? What makes this subject so appealing, and what does its appeal reveal about contemporary Arab film practices, Arab societies, trajectories of migration, concepts of motherhood and fatherhood, also generational shifts? What might be also interesting, if then family documentaries are kind of genres, so can we speak also of narrative themes, styles of storytelling, aesthetics that characterize this genre or not? And I want to discuss these questions with you and with our guests, and get inspiration from their respective filming experiences. Just on a side note, the panel does not intend, we are lucky to have all your films in our program this year, really very beautiful, powerful films, and we are very happy that we presenting them to the audience of Berlin. But this panel does not intend to discuss each film in detail, so no spoilers for those who haven't seen the film. Directly after the panel, you can watch We Are Inside by Farah, Kassem in Transtopia at 19:30. If you are super motivated, this will not take so long. And then you can also watch on Monday at 7 in Transtopia, Samira's film at 19:30, and then in Wolf it will be screened on Tuesday at 9:30. And for those who haven't, from Abdul to Leila has been screened already. Those who haven't watched the film, this panel is meant also to motivate them to rewatch it, for those who have watched it, or to watch it. You just mentioned that it will be screened in Wolf.
Yeah.
Do you want?
I don't know. September, okay. October.
September, October. Exactly. Okay, so now finally let me introduce my guests, and maybe I start with Farah first. Farah was born in Tripoli, Lebanon. And since 2008, Farah has been working as a director, editor, and DOP on several documentaries. Her filmography includes short documentaries that have competed also in Vision de Rille, in Warsaw Film Festival, Doc Leipzig, and many others. Her first short documentary, My Father Looks Like Abdel Nasser, received Special Mention Award at Dubai International Film Festival in 2012, and We Are Inside is her first feature documentary. Thank you very much, Farah, for being with us tonight. And then we have Samira Mouzghibati. She's a Belgian-Moroccan filmmaker based in Brussels. She has accumulated experience as an editor on several fiction and documentary film projects, working with directors from a variety of backgrounds. And her film, Les Miennes, okay, or Your Mother, Our Mother, premiered at Vision de Rille and was the winner of the jury award. It is also your first feature documentary. Our third guest is Leila Albayaty, a multidisciplinary artist of French-Iraqi origin. Her first short film, VU, received a special mention at the Berlinale, and her subsequent film, Berlin Telegram, was selected for about 30 international film festivals and won the TV5 prize for Best Frankfurt Film in Geneva. And from Abdul to Leila is a documentary fiction. It received also several awards, among other the Best Asian Film in Iraq at Al Ghuna Film Festival in Egypt, and the jury prize at Nice. Right? Yes. Thank you, Leila and Samira, also for being with us tonight. My first question, so how this will go on, I have 2 rounds of questions, but I don't have to ask all of them. I will ask my first round, and then if we already have questions in the audience, you can go on. But my first question is directed at the 3 of you, and it's about what motivated you in the first place to place your father, in the case of Leila and Farah, and your mother, Samira, in your case, at the center of your films. What thoughts and feelings guided you as you embarked on your respective project, and maybe also from which experiences or stories did you draw inspiration? So who wants to start?
I can start.
Please.
So on my case scenario, me and my father, we had a lot of conflict. I grew up in France, and he was always talking to me about Iraq and things, and finally he told me you have to be that, marry a Muslim, and finally don't talk to the Arabs in front. So we had so many conflicts that finally years passed and I was living here, and when he accepted, because I really loved him and I knew his trauma and blah blah blah. When he started in my case scenario, he wrote me songs in Arabic, and he's 80 years old, Iraqi old man, about the freedom of women. I really felt I have to learn Arabic and I have to talk about a man like him, because I think in Europe a lot of Arab men are not seen like, and I had to spread his message.
Tu veux parler, Farah?
Non, ça va, si vous voulez. Allez-y.
So what the motivation was not like at one moment, like that happened like at one moment, but like it was it took time. I think first of all, the first step for me was just wanting to film my family, and when I started my cinema studies, I started also meanwhile to collect and make archives of my family and bring the camera in the living room. Maybe because we don't talk too much about our history, I already had this feeling of gaps. And since I'm the last one of the family, I inherited of a lot of feelings, but not a lot of knowledge, you know. And when I finished my cinema studies and I became a mother myself, that brought a lot of questions actually to me, and confused emotions. How do I raise a daughter? Sorry. Sorry, I didn't get it. How do I raise a daughter not being really anchored in my own history and not knowing clearly what I was made from, and also because there was a lot of difficulties for me. Like the fact of having a daughter was for me very challenging, because she was a daughter and not a boy, like not a son. And so I thought, okay, there is something wrong with me. Like I have to go and on a quest in my family and understand why I built this fucked up idea of something is wrong with having a daughter, you know. So this was the motivation, and in the beginning I wanted to make a film mostly about my sister, my eldest sisters, because they are like obvious characters and very strong and powerful, and I had like a lot of resistance of not like going to my mother, filming her, because it was not easy for me to film her. Like it's a woman that she wouldn't even accept to be photographed, you know. So, but actually, it became an evidence that she would become my main character, because every step I was making towards this family history, it converged to her, you know, like, so approximately.
Farah?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm saddened that I'm not with you in person, and but this is how it is, out of our control. For me, I want to join Samira on what she said. For me, it's really very much about the act of transmission, and the sense, the way I sense this act of transition, that it's somehow disrupted, and therefore there's a lot of narratives that are discontinued, and the work by itself, filming with the family or filming with my father, started years ago. This is my third film with him, actually. I made 2 shorts with him. We did this together. And for me, it was always about wanting to understand my reality or my surrounding reality by engaging with those around me. This is how I position myself in the work and in the way I do the work. It's about how I relate to the different bubbles, to the public space, to the private space. And I mean, positionality is a big thing because it allows me to define where am I and where am I gazing at, and how long can I gaze, how long can I gaze, who can I gaze at, and what kind of exchange is possible within this space. So all of this to say that actually what happened is that I started this third project with my dad when I was living in Berlin. I was away, and being away from home for some time made me get a sense that I'm somehow living in fragmentation, which is like just I believe that's somehow an illusion when you're away from home. The way you relate to home and to your background and to the way you grew up becomes somehow fragmented because I was no longer in contact with that place and space. And my dad was getting older and he was not feeling so well, so I felt the need to go and spend time with him, and we get along. We were really good friends, but whenever we talk about politics, whenever we talk about what it means to be a citizen in this country, in the city, how to behave in the street, what are we allowed to say, and what we are forced to keep to ourselves, was something that we always argued about. And then we would spend days not talking to each other, and then he would come to me with a piece of paper in his hand, knocking on my door and telling me, "Have I read you my latest poem, my daughter?" So he's a poet. He loves classical Arabic poetry, and I don't understand any of his words, And then he would stand there for like hours, just animated with words and senses and meanings. And even though I didn't understand much, still, because he found joy in using the most complex, terminologies. Not because my Arabic is bad in any way, but for me, what mattered is to see how language animated him, how this ritual animated him. And then when he took me to the poetry club, and I met all these men at the poetry club gathering every Monday around pastry, and they're all diabetic, and tea and papers and poetry, and just talking of a word that no longer exists. Meanwhile, the whole country is collapsing outside. This was somehow, okay, it's not my space, I do not belong to the space, but I do belong to my father, and he belongs to me, and I do belong to the city, and I do somehow, I am a visitor of that space. Therefore, I felt that there was something, that was a space for me to actually reboot, not reboot, I don't know what the word is, but try to think again about my city, my sense of belonging, and how do I relate to that space and to the people of Tripoli and to my family and who I am.
Yeah, I for the next question, I want actually to take you exactly from this point, also because it was very interesting what you mentioned about having a daughter and then suddenly realizing there are things you need to process in your own family history. But also, Leila, you mentioned the conflicts with your father. And I was wondering how far filming and editing your own family has also transformed you as persons, and also maybe transformed your relationship with your parents, resolving conflicts, or maybe it's a healing journey from traumas, or if you feel comfortable to share.
I'm the starter. So after I hear them, I say, "Oh, why was I so bad?" On my side, when my father wrote me these songs, it was also for me very important because he was a dissident of Saddam Hussein, and he was living with Saddam Hussein. Finally, he became. I grew up with him in France. He had to hide, so that's why he didn't wanted that I was really. He wanted that I was French, and he saw all the complexity. And at the same time, he was so proud to. So, after all these years, when he finally accepted me and wrote me the songs about freedom, about women who decide her life and things as the new Arabic woman, I really understood that he transmitted me a lot of trauma, and also I have a trauma because I went to Iraq to live, and I never spoke about. I had an accident, I lost memory. All the film, what is my film about? But I was really feeling that this had to be. I had to sing his songs, and finally it was like I felt I had to come back to my origin, and so it was really hard. Because yeah, I learned, and also to put camera in front of my parents and to have the privacy, and because the message came to him, it was about him to give the message, and finally I said, as if I have a mission, kind of, because I'm Western, but I have these things and all this terrorism and these people being racist, and I'm a woman, so finally it was a very long way. And about, yes, so healing for sure, but also as a filmmaker being responsible to also share this kind of story. What I also adore in your film is that when you got, because we have the camera, we know our parents, we film, we put the camera again, we kill them, you know, and and it's not good, it's stuck, and we are in the same time looking at them as potential to be storytelling. All in the same time we are making the film with them. So for them it's like my parents said, when are you gonna stop with your camera? And it's like never, you know, because also it's not, you know, it has to be a film, and we are exigent. So, and in her film, we really feel that it's a film that talks a lot to me because she's near of the story, and we entrance the family. And I didn't saw your film, Farah, and I'm very happy to see it very soon. I heard a lot of things great. So yes, it's healing, in the same time it's transmitting, and yeah. And personally, I changed a lot. I was very traumatized and very about Iraq and things, and now to have done it and to be able to have taken my mother too, and so she's also a pillar of the. She says, and now the film is going to be in France in the theater, and she says why Arabic is not transmitted, why we can't learn Arabic at schools. It's not normal. And we can learn Spanish, English, blah, 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 and not Arabic, when so many Arabs are in France. And this is a question very important, because I never learned Arabic. And so, because I missed, it was a ghost of things from my father, I went by my own to Iraq, and I had trauma, accident, blah, blah, blah. But if I could have had English, the culture, and not, it would not be so, all my life, this trauma after me, all this, and so, yeah, and that's a question that is very important, that this Arabic culture should be teach in France and things. So finally, yeah, I think at the same time on my film it's very intimist, but it's also about questions that are socially very important, and talking about Iraq again, and this invasion terrible of America and things. So yeah, it's healing for me, and I'm very happy to know, but it took 8 years of and impossible to finance, and it was a long work.
Thank you, Leila. It's very moving what you shared, and it made me think about a discussion I had after a screening in Antwerp in Belgium, and the theme of the screening was they showed the film, but the theme of the event was al-ghurba, which means exile in Arabic, and so the person who presented asked me the question of, what does al-ghurba means for you? And I was like, actually I'm born in Belgium, so I don't know. I didn't did this move of exiling myself, and still I feel this is I'm very connected to the word, but I didn't exile from somewhere, and then I said, to me al-ghurba is a feeling of having lost something I never knew. And I think with this film, this was the move also, like wanting to understand something that was, like you said, we were not taught anything about our stories, neither at school or anywhere, but also not at home, even though I come from a very, in Brussels, we are 30% Moroccans in the city. We have a big Moroccan community, and we are present, in the city. And still I had this lack of understanding of our journey and who I am and what I am and stuff. And so it is really you're like a tree without roots. It's a cliche to say that, but it's true. In a sense, it's true. And to me, actually, before starting the movie, to be honest with you guys, I was very much in a phase of my life where I was completely rejecting my identity, my Moroccan identity. I became, like we say, you interiorize racism in a sense,
Yeah.
I was completely rejecting my Muslim identity also, and I was completely confused. And I had a child meanwhile, so, and you always put in places where you have to make crazy choices, but you don't have the keys to make them actually. And the only key I found was to tackle it with the camera, because this is the only thing I know, actually. So it brought me also on a very hard journey, because it's therapeutic actually, and you have to go through all your own resistances, your own fears, and in a sense, when I started this movie, I had a fantasy of I would change my mother and she would understand who I am, and
she changed you.
In a sense, yes. She managed to change. But meanwhile, not really, because it helped me to go through all the emotions and the difficult journey, and to kind of breathe again, and accept and agree to disagree in a sense. Because now, the fact, by understanding more the journey of my family and the journey of my mother and who she is as a woman, also beyond of being my mother, who she is as a woman and as a young woman and stuff, it helped me to have, by more understanding for her, it helped me to have more understanding for myself, actually.
Yeah, that's. Thank you for sharing this. It's so. Farah?
Ah, yes, she don't need the mic.
Yeah, super valuable. What has been said. For me, filming or making this film or using film is somehow out of greed, I would say, because I'm a greedy person. It was actually to keep my father alive in a way, because I knew he loves to play, and I knew that he loves to be engaged in something, and I knew that the longer I filmed, the longer he would stay alive, and it was a way to keep him. So that, I think, would be my first reason, that the idea of having a project together. But also, there's, of course, an inner wish for complexity, an inner wish to add more facets to this world that I come from, that is super mediatized and that is super stigmatized and that is made public and read with the eyes of still colonialists, and those who want to still shape its history and make its stories. So for me, it was how can I make it more opaque? How can I make it more complex? How can I allow for us to watch a film where we don't necessarily fully understand everything, but we get a sense of something, an emotion of something. And funny enough, the language is a carrier in my film, but it is a carrier that actually invites us to accept that we don't understand each other. And allow us to accept that we can be in a space where that is actually nice. And what is beautiful about that is that we are allowed negotiations, And I think that this is also what film, the medium by itself, is for me, as a tool of negotiation. It's a tool of negotiation with my father, with his generation, this generation that was super politicized in the past, that witnessed different versions of the country and of the region, and that was completely overshadowed and put aside, you know, especially in during the Civil War, they lost a lot of friends, you know, and then after that until the 90s, and then in the 2000s. So this generation somehow believed in the idea of a nation, and they were extremely defeated, and therefore they were involved. They would watch TV and the news while being sick or dying on a hospital bed, you know. It's not that they didn't care, but they didn't want to be active anymore, and they somehow pushed us, or pushed my dad, and somehow he was like, don't get involved, just do your life, you know. And that meant that I couldn't be a citizen, or I couldn't actually practice my right of being a citizen in this country and staying in it. So for me, it is a tool of negotiation with them, you know. Like, let us try, you know, let us hope, let us want. And I just want to end with an idea that we were talking about this the other day with a friend, about this idea of temporary societies. This idea of, you know, when I love the idea that you have a specific project, you have a beginning and an end, I mean, regardless of how you later on build it and construct it. But there's a proposition. I want to be part, I mean, I'm not going to say much about the film, but I mean, the main proposition is that I go into this poetry club, and then I try to become a member of this poetry club in order to impress my dad and say what I want to say through verses and poetry. But for me, the idea was actually to start with that and see how I derail from that. And this idea of this kind of project where everybody's involved creates some sort of temporary society where things could happen in time, you know, where things can happen. And this idea of the eternal that somehow is heavy on us because it leads nowhere, you know, is somehow is like, yeah, it's not there. So voila, so the film is about these different temporary societies that exist in parallel, that are in this private space, that are communicating with the public space and affecting, and they are affecting each other in a way or another, and I try to film that, or I try to convey that.
But Farah, to add on this, would you say that this film made you a poet?
Not at all. I'm far from it.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, but these are really rich insights. I mean, like how also this kind of films about parents and also transforming you in various ways, healing traumas or coming to terms with stigmatized, mediatized world and living the temporary world. Or also discovery of the own roots and identity and finding the balance and or ghurba, different meanings for yes. But I mean, healing and resolving tension and discovery of identity is one side of the story, because you already also mentioned the difficulties of shooting your own parents, editing your own parents. So were there moments when, because closeness is a present, like it's nice to have this, you have access to your parents, you know them very well, but at the same time it could be also difficult to deal with it, with this intimacy and closeness as a subject matter of filming. So were there moments of conflicts or tensions, fear from revealing certain things that might be discomfortable for them, where you had doubts, why I'm doing this, or maybe where did you decide to change the direction or your original plot, if you want to share?
Je peux commencer si tu as envie. C'est pas tout le temps la première. I said I would start, so she's not always the first one. Yes. To me the journey was all about fear and doubt, and going When I sense a fear, that is where I go, you know. This is just because you don't know, but it's a kind of direction also that helps you know where to look, actually. And to me, doing this film was mainly about those spaces of doubt and fear, because I knew from the beginning, even though it was not clear what kind of film I wanted to make, I knew I didn't want to make, in French we say quelque chose de lisse, like something clean and just aesthetic, or I don't know. I don't do a film then, you know. Just it has to be something transformative, and it came from a place of need. It didn't came from I want to make a film, so I will make a film on my family. So I needed to work on something about my family, and filming will help me do that. So it's a opposite journey in a sense. What Farah said, it also made me think about the fact that with filming and bringing a camera on, I understood that I created a space that didn't exist beyond that. So these moments of discussion wouldn't exist if the camera was not there. So camera is but just bringing it in the space is transformative in itself.
Of course, yeah.
And helps you do something and gives me a kind of courage. And also I didn't film on my own. I had my own archives, but also the film is also a journey with my mother. So there I had a DOP, and bringing someone in the space who you trust, who you trust the gaze of course, is also creating a space for you to look differently at your parents. And now I'm lost in the question. What was the
Yeah, it was about the difficulties of the moments of embarrassment, doubt.
Yeah, there were many, and at a certain point I accepted that it was a lot of trials,
Yeah.
very much, because you have to find the right balance of what you show, what you don't show.
Exactly.
Are you not, okay, you have a privilege because you're a daughter, but that doesn't mean you're not responsible, and you have to think about ethics also. Definitely, maybe even more. There is something like, since you're directly connected to your characters, it's if you do something wrong to them, you do something wrong to yourself directly also. Yeah. So it was always a question, and I didn't have the answer to it. So a lot of trials, and also a lot of accepting that I would go to edit after, and if I felt I did something that was not okay, I could just let it out, you know. So I kind of had indulgence for myself on that, like, okay, I never did that before, so yes, so it was, all the journey was about doubting and feeling, and editing is amazing. For me, this movie is really about editing, because when I came to edit, I understood many layers of the material I had, of the discussions I had, that I didn't get at the first place, you know. And there the limits also changed, went back or went further. So yes.
Farah?
Yes. For me, it was all of it. No, but I filmed for 4 years, somehow, like, maybe a bit continuously. I mean, I was filming. There was a part of the filming that I did alone, and a part that I did with a cinematographer, with Tebe Shanning, the cinematographer of the film. But for me, I would say, I mean, of course, like, creating and when you are filming and you are editing at the same time, it's not something that is so easy. And this is what we were doing, you know. We were filming, testing the material, trying to put some scenes together, trying to see what is being communicated there, what is actually the patchwork of this film. And then, so it was like a conversation between these two processes. And that was actually difficult, but very interesting. And because it's not final, it doesn't have this heaviness to it, huh? And then the moment we really started making the film, it was after really editing. It was, and I cannot mention actually what, because then I would it would ruin the experience for the people. But then at some point when we started editing, we filmed a lot. We filmed 200 hours of material, and that was too much. And I mean, at some point I was just standing there with the camera in front of the window and doing nothing but archiving, as if, but it was, I think, it was a reaction because I felt like everything was fleeting, and it was the only way for me to actually freeze time and allow, I mean, especially in Lebanon, you know, when everything is shaken, everything is unsure. And now, just an hour ago, the Israelis said that they're gonna bomb a building in Beirut, you know. So I mean, you never know when your reality is gonna just dismantle. So I think this act of freezing is difficult because it leads you to filming 200 hours of material, and then you have to bring this material and then make sense out of it, you know. And this material is full of the changing gaze, because for me, when I started this film, I was filming from the window, for example, the elections, you know, that happened after 9 years of no election, and then suddenly a pigeon came, you know, and then my gaze shifted to the pigeon, and then suddenly people went on the street, and there was like a complete chaos. So this shifting, how can you make a thread out of this shifting gaze all the time? How can you make sense out of it? You know, how can you invite somebody into this world where there is familiarity, but familiarity is constantly changing and being redefined all the time? So that's for sure was something difficult, but just to end it, for me it was the editing and the work that we did with Anas Jepsen, the editor of the film, myself, and also with Isabella Rinaldi, and the producer of the film, Cynthia Schuer. Like she kind of saved the situation, because at some point I was completely lost, and I was dealing with the material in a way that was far from how they were made. You know, I kind of I think what I did was I imposed something on them that was not there, you know, or that was kind of taking them in directions that were interesting, but not as a whole, you know. And I think it's after we sat with Cynthia for 10 days in a row, we watched 200 hours of material, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes on fast forward, because otherwise it's technically impossible. You know, after doing that, we realized that what we did is we condensed time in a capsule. And the thing that we needed to do is try to understand how can we create time within another capsule, where this condensation is there, where repetition is there, and where the repetition of repetition is actually leading you somewhere, building an accumulation that makes you somehow understand what it means to live in Tripoli in front of a military base in 2019, when everything is changing all the time, you know.
Thank you, Farah.
So on my case, it was really adopting. The film was really making me suffer a lot.
8 years, you say?
Yeah, 8 years, yeah. I mean, there was something that it started with this writing of my father in Arabic, the songs in which says, I'm ana hara, ana jamara, ana thawra, which is revolution, I'm a flame, because he thought I was that. And finally, when I look at the lyrics, I said, oh, it's me inside these lyrics. It's I'm a flame, and finally, it's changed so much to learn Arabic through the music and to make my own music for his songs, and finally to write the film with the music and to make my own lyrics and to make my own music, which is in between my European style and this Arabic language, was really I don't know. It was a lot of. It was where I felt I feel better to sing than to speak. So finally, it was really my way to to build the film because it became a musical where I changed my voiceover and through music and with these lyrics, and about when I was editing. Also, I was editing alone, and the camerawoman followed me for so many years, and editing, trying to find money, wanting to stop this film so many times, and finally someone appears in your life and says, but it's a great story, and you say, no, what is it? And you don't know how to speak about, you are shy to speak about you, and because I acted in the film, it was really, and I went to the hospital, I almost suicide for the film, because my producer were really stop this film, and they said, yeah, now we bring it to the Berlinale. I said, no, but I don't want anything. I want to sing the voiceover. And they said, the film is finished. And I said, no, I hate my voice. And so I was almost suiciding again for this film, because it was such and to speak about, I found, it was this, I love my parents, and sometimes it was like you, I didn't know where I came, what I have to talk, to reject. I tried to be for them for 20 years. I left France, I was here. Nobody knew I had an Arabic background. Nobody knew that, and I was every day before starting the film, 15 years, arriving home and vomiting alone because I had the trauma of Iraq and I never talked about. So all the film was crazy, intense, and it was very important for me to talk with what they had to say, the songs of the father, Yalla sahibni, Yalla wa'adni, Albi bi'uli, anta hatibni, Albi mirtarek min bain ashabek, which is I'm the one who choose you between your friends, as a woman who choose her life, her love, and things. I was like, if you sing this in English, it means nothing. But as an Arab, to be a woman to sing this, I really felt the message. So finally, it was a long, everything, and I have really to do this. It was really because I had people around me that were really near and helping, because alone I would really, it was a very hard film, and so doubting a lot.
Really this conversation is so inspiring so far, and I'm very grateful that you share these things, because it's I know it's very intimate, and But my first round is over, so I open the floor for the audience to, if you have questions, comments, please.
Should I just speak loudly?
Yes.
So hello, my name is Hannah from Lori Films, and thank you so much for the insights and this conversation. I watched a short film a while back about a filmmaker making a film about his family, about his parents, kind of the behind the scenes. And it kind of got me to thinking, there is one way we see our parents, there is one way we would like them to be, and then to present them to the public is another layer or inception. And I wanted to ask if this affected, changed, or determined your process in any way in making your films.
First of all, I would like to react on something, because in a sense it's connected to what you ask, because all these things that you say about trauma and what it physically means to make a movie about your family. I actually read the text of a sociologist called Abdul Malik Sayed. He's an Algerian from France. I know him, and I discovered him a few weeks ago actually. And he has an article from the 70s already called Les enfants illégitimes, which basically means the bastards. and explaining the feeling parents of coming from immigration have towards their own children.
Yeah.
And it was a very moving article to read. And actually, I feel like when we make, when I say we, coming from exile, when we make movie about our families, it's meanwhile intimate and about emotions and very physical experience, and meanwhile political. So we are always entangled in between very many contradictory feelings, and this is, yeah, at the end you throw, you know, it's like, it's just too much to handle, like it's coming from everywhere, inside and outside, always. This is a very hard show, but a very needed journey, at least. I'm very happy I did it. And about your question, yes, my film is definitely about that fantasy of wanting to change my mother and wanting her to see, wanting me to see that she would see her daughters in the way I want, and it's all about this gaze actually that you're talking about, and all the journey was actually owning who I am, who my mother is, who my family is, with all these contradictions, with all the parts I could be ashamed of, but this is it actually, and it's beautiful. And of course, because of the, let's say, yes, systemic racist Islamophobic context, it doesn't help, it makes it worse, but I needed to own it, and to the journey was to, you know, throw this away and just be able to see our own complexities as humans, even though the context is the external context is difficult. We are in right to be complex humans, you know, mediocre humans even, you know. So this was for me the journey, yes.
About filming and editing and showing, I mean, for me it started especially with my mother, because my father, for him it was transmission. He wanted these lyrics inside me. He knew I was a filmmaker, singer. He felt I'm going to transmit his words. So he was like, when you watch the image, he was great from the first moment. But my mother, she didn't want it to be in the film. And I started to film her, and at the beginning, when you put a camera and I tell her to speak about that, for example, how they met, she offered him a sandwich, and she's French and he's Arabic, and he didn't take it. His honor was, and so he threw the sandwich like this, and she was crying, and finally he took a little Pictionary and said, désolé, he was not speaking one another. So she told me the story, and I was filming, and finally I was with the camera, and I said, Ma'am, be natural. So I was really, and I said, 2 weeks after, I said, we film again, the same story. I said, and 3 weeks after, so no, ma'am, it's not fine. You're not natural. Oh, the sound is bad. And things. So finally, it was also a documentary, but it's also I had a lot to make them tired, to be used to have the camera in front of them and to have the moments and to have. So it was really tiring them. And finally, yeah, about things. Finally, they, on my side, they came into the film and they wanted to be part of the film, to say things. And now about being seen, they don't have the same view, because I'm a filmmaker, and for them they are very proud that the film is seen, and but they don't understand the same like I do. So for them, for example, my mother is really, they're into politics or whatever. It's not. But they are very happy, and I feel that it's seen, and they understood also. I think the time of this passion made them understand why we did it, and I think, yeah, no, it's great, but it was, yeah, a lot of, I don't know, to arrive there, a lot of, and sometimes my father was really crazy, we fight it, he said, and also, for example, because I'm on the 8 years, I had, for example, I never filmed my father because we fight a lot because of my accent in Arabic. He was really like, it's not that, and I said, Dad, and no, the music is not that, and he sings so false. It's crazy, and he said, you should do that. And it said, but there's no sound. It was, and so finally I said, I never filmed that, so finally I made, and it's in the film, at the beginning, I was like, he's old, and finally I sing again his songs when I knew totally better Arabic. I made as if I don't know anything. And he's like, so finally, he's like very nervous with me because I sing so bad, and he doesn't understand. So it was kind of fictionalizing with them and explaining, and yeah, it was, yeah.
Farah, do you have a take on that? Like your father as he is, your father as you want him to be, and your father as you present him to the audience.
Right, and it's very similar to what Leila said about, you know, my father like criticized me whenever I tried to recite something. It was just unbearable.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wanted to change things in him, of course. I think, I mean, it's a lifetime of wanting to change things in the other. I mean, this is how I think there was something about the way we related to each other that was pushing each other to our limits somehow. And I mean, if you would watch the film, you would see it in many scenes. And it was not done on purpose. It was not done to provoke or to, you know, to agitate. It was mainly done out of love and anxiety, you know, and me wanting him to be reactive, because then I knew if he's reactive, then he will still feel relevant to this world, and by feeling relevant, he will remain, you know. And I do also believe that they also want to change us. They also want to shape us, you know. And it's like it's something that they do to us, and then we do to them, and it's a back and forth, and it's fine, you know. It's fine. It leads to some shouting, and then some sorry, I love you, and sometimes not, sometimes yes. And I mean, you know, it goes in many different directions. And I think, and this is what I was talking about when I was talking about negotiations, you know, how to build the relationship that you have with the parent, you know, and then how to what is the limit of that, and how much do you get affected. And I would just want to say also, I mean, also of course it depends on the story. It depends on the lived experience with the parent. I'm here specifically talking about my relationship with my dad. But I want to say that what was interesting for me, what I noticed methodologically, is that because well, like I said, I filmed him alone, and then there was a crew, right? And then when I was filming with him alone, this somehow, of course, allowed, because we did this before, this somehow allowed us to dive into the intimacy of the moment, to be there together in a way that belongs to us, you know. And then when Tebe and Joel were here, he was so happy, you know. He loved having visitors over, you know. Like he was like, oh yeah, now we're gonna finish this scene. I want to play cards with Joel. I want to watch a football match with Tebe, you know. Like this was the vibe at home. And at the beginning, I was frustrated, you know. Baba, khalas, no, you know, we have scenes. And he was like that. And then I think somehow being in these different environments allowed us to see different facets of who he is. Yeah. You know, this man who wants to be alone, who can wake up in the middle of the night because he got inspired and he needs to write down the verse before he forgets it, you know? And this man who actually loves to just be there with a cup of tea and just talk to those and be there with the other. And I believe that this was actually the richness of the way we did things, because, without knowing, without it being a conscious decision, is allowing the plurality of somebody, you know, and the plurality of their everyday and their life. So, so yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. Are there other questions? Please.
I'm Sophie. I had a question which was like from everything you said, and thank you for sharing all this very personal insights. Well, I was wondering why you all work on so personal films on family, which is you find the political and the private, and how was it for you, or how did you navigate to like the role of being the director, but at the same time also the daughter or daughters, and how you navigated these two roles in the filmmaking process. Yeah.
Can I add something to the question, because I feel it's related?
Yeah, sure.
So, because I'm a filmmaker who is interested in the idea of making a film about my family. So maybe you could say a few things of like, how do you start this process? What worked well? What didn't work well? So what's your advice?
And maybe I add something because it's because I think it's also interesting. I wanted to ask you about that, but I need to make sure that all can attend Farah's film as well.
Yes.
So about the narrative tools of making an autobiographical film about fathers and mothers, like the lack or the availability of family archives, of photographs, of home videos, how far this helped you, or...
Yes.
Yeah.
Tu veux que je réponde? Enfin, maybe you answer.
Farah? Go on.
Okay, I'm gonna try to answer it all. I mean, the most brief way. About the political and the intimate, and the politically intimate, for me, I mean, it's not that I don't think of it as a genre, you know, like filming family. I think about it as a way, like I said, as a way to relate, as a way to approach and to make. And for me, it has always been the off-frame of something, you know. And I've always been called by the off-frame, you know, and the possibility of that off-frame. And what is this? What does it allow? Because I do feel that it's a place that allows cracks, you know, and through these cracks you can sense some sort of truthness, you know, and truthness in between brackets, of course. But when I started working on this film, I love working with limitations. I love to say, okay, so this is a little recipe that I'm gonna propose and then work by. And the idea for us was to mainly film from the interiors and never from the exteriors. So all the film was approached from the private space, from the interiors of different homes, different rooms, you know. And from that interior, you would watch the street, and you would relate to the public domain. And this choice was conscious because in my city or in Lebanon, I do feel like the public space is privatized. Everything is like just privatized all the time. And then nothing somehow belongs to the people. And there's like, and when the revolution happened, there was like us reclaiming territory, saying that no, this belongs to us, and the public space is the extension of our homes and vice versa. So the film was about how these two spaces, what is the limitation? Is there a border between these two spaces, and how do they communicate? How do they? What is happening? What is the dynamic between these two? And this is why I believe that, I mean, home, you know, filming within a household, within a family, is a beautiful way to actually receive the public. Allow us to observe it within the intimacy of our TV rooms, of our bedrooms, of our kitchens, you know, and then sending it back and see how it resonates with the outside world. And this act by itself, for me, is life, you know. It's this moving apparatus that we think that we are capturing, but we will never capture, you know, and we're just capturing traces of it.
Very well said.
I can add something. About the daughter-director dynamic, the one serves the other always. It's like it becomes the face of a coin, you know, the two faces of a coin. And what I mean with it's the one serves the other, it's the fact that being the daughter enables me to make this film because I have access that nobody else could have. And trust also, because they trust my gaze, they trust that I wouldn't do something wrong also with their image. And the daughter needs the director to nourish her gaze on her own family and to take distance from her family history and be able to see her family members as personas, you know, and give them all that back, you know. Just in a sense, the director helped the daughter to grow up, you know, if I could say it like this. And about your question, I can just share a bit of my experience. Everything is in a sense intimate and political with everything in life, for sure, but especially that because there are very concrete things that happened. For example, in my case, when I started to write this film, I started filming before writing. Filming helped me think, you know. But when I started to write to apply for funds, my producer noticed. She said, "Why are you that I was always writing the film I didn't want to do." So I was writing, I don't want to do a film about the history of immigration. I don't want to do a film that is like tribunal, a court for Islam, blah, blah. And only writing from a place of fear, of being misunderstood. And she said, but just write the film you want to do. And I said something very connected to what Farah said. And I said, I just want to film our family ties and the complexity of our family ties. So that journey, just to allow and to kind of wash your brain, you know, was already a step. And it is also political because for me, for example, starting to say, oh, I want to tell the story a little bit of my parents. But what is their story? Okay, I don't know very much, but maybe I can find some archives and images about their region and their childhood. And then I search and I search and I don't find. The region is not filmed, and I know maybe I can find some archives in Spain because it was colonized by Spain. And then you understood, okay, my parents and their parents have been through very difficult wars and a famine, and so everything's become political. It's all related, and then you understand that their relation to silence is also connected to that story. It's always intertwined, and so the main journey was to wash the brain to go on that path. Actually, I would say yes.
I also started to film without funds. And I think and the film really developed little by little, because at the beginning I totally didn't know. Also, my film is it's also a message, a secret message that I didn't talk to my parents to, and that I mean, it's not just there about them, it's also about me to them, very important, which is the most maybe important also in the film. And so, I started without money, but people were great to come with me. And finally, also as French, before my films I'm French, and I was always, it was easy, more easy. Then now I opened the Arabic side, was really complex. About funding, about everything, about it. I finally live like every people in diaspora without having a house on the film and on the funding and on the difficulties. And so it was a long process to also try to explain to my parents what I never told them, and they felt on papers. Finally, they decided to be in the film because they understood the only way to that I feel better is to be in the film, because they were really, there was something that was not right, and on my life it's not I'm into family documentaries. I look at a lot of fictions. But I felt that it was a necessity to do that, because if not, I don't know. And finally, they got it. So also it was a process and it was for sure with fight, with whatever, with things, and they, yeah. So, but it was very generous, it was a necessity of coming. And on my future, now people told me, sometimes people really criticize you. They say, you should not do again a film about that. People are, because when you go to do things so personal, it's very easy for them to work on you, And so this is finally, you learn a lot to protect yourself and to say, hey, and so, yeah. So.
Thank you. Okay. I don't ask.
Okay.
And then you, and then you,
Yeah,
and then there's a question.
You want to just, maybe you already talked a bit about it, but maybe you can name how your relationship to your parents changed during the process, and maybe also the quality or quantity of conversations you were having. Like, how did that change?
Mm-hmm. Maybe we collect the questions.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question in general regarding the new genre, so to say, family documentary films. And my question is, what make a film stand out as a family film? Because we saw the last year's Qaf from Syria, about the Qubaysiyat, and Baba Kabaria also. I think what was interesting is the context. Baba Kabaria and Qaf it's a family documentary, but it's more about the Qubaysiyat, the community in Syria, and the relationship between her mother and the Qubaysiyat, and the liberation's journey of Yam Abbas from the traditional community in Palestine. So what makes the film relevant for the public audience? I know you speak a lot, and thank you for sharing the details about how the films reshaped you as a person. But what makes a film very relevant for the public audience?
Should we?
Maybe it's her.
You will answer first?
Yes.
Yes. It's complex.
For example, me on this Bye Bye Tiberian, I didn't saw the film of Farah, but between Bye Bye Tiberian and Lemian, I really prefer Lemian. Because for me, her way, I found the film about Abbas, Ayam Abbas, very interesting into what she was, what's her life and things, and to learn about, to hear a lot of things about Palestine. But personally, her way as a daughter to be near of the mother, I found it a bit, I don't know. Her film or my film are so much more, close to the borders and to. For me, it was too classical for me, and I didn't. So I come from Cassavetes. I like the things that are rock and that are really near of the other and emotional. And I really, it's a very interesting thing. But the film of Lemian for me I was really more inside the conflicts, the joy, the girls having so much fun together, the family, their things, their way of and it was, so that was more relevant for me. That's why, because she took this camera, she was very near, and that's my taste.
What was your question again?
Maybe a bit personal, but how did the relationship to your parents change?
Yes. First of all, I will answer. I think the question of relevancy to the public is a very wide question, and only the public could answer to that. You know, I couldn't say in why a film could be relevant for a public and not another. We are so many and so diverse, and our needs are so diverse. That's why I was saying that I did the film for me as first public. I needed to see something I couldn't see in my life, actually. So I made the film for that. So in a sense, in a very selfish way, was only for me. And then in a secondly, for my family, for them to see, for my mother to see her daughters. And for really, it was really very selfish. And I was okay with it. And then, of course, you go on a journey and you understand it's very tricky. But in a sense, of course, the film is towards the public, and you know that the fact that the film will be seen helps you, in a sense, to shape your film, and in the sense it gives me courage to make choices in my film because I know it will be seen, and so it helps me to say this. I want to be true, to be. To own the narrative and to own all the complexities. And so I don't think about how the public will receive it. I more think about what does it do to me to know that it will be seen. It's I cannot answer for the public. And c'était quoi l'autre question?
How the no
yes the change. There was nothing to change in my case. It really is all about gaze, all about how it shifts my personal gaze, and of course the film was also a way for us as a family to work on a lot of things, and the film is actually only a very small part of who we are, what we are, and what the film allowed. You will see, for them, those who didn't saw the film, and you will see it. We talk about a Pandora box in the film, and really this film opened up a Pandora box for us as a family, and so it helped. The film helped us in a very still private way, also.
Farah, do you want to add something on that?
Not much, but I mean, I agree with what Leila and Samira said about relevancy. I do not believe that there's a formula or the recipe for what could be relevant or not. And myself, I'm gonna talk as an audience, as somebody who watch films as well, not as a filmmaker necessarily. For me, what matters is the authenticity of the work. What matters for me is and it's not related to the context of the film, neither to the geopolitics or all of this. It's rather about, is the filmmaker confronting themselves while making this work? Are they doing the work while making this work? And are they giving me the vocab for me to enter this universe? And when this is there, when I'm touched, this is what makes it relevant, And we are not, even if I don't fully understand the work, but as long as I am in this experience, I'm allowed in, and I feel that it's authentic, this is what makes it relevant. And yeah, that's it.
But before taking your question, I think it's also, for as a public, as an audience watching your films, it's not just. I think even if these films are very intimate, autobiographical, but they open also a window for a deeper understanding of political and contexts that are very relevant to our times. Like in your film specifically, like the histories of migration and destinies of migration and the violence also afflicted on migrants coming from the region to Europe, and how this violence can be also transgenerational. I think this is something that is really, for me, like very appealing in your film. The struggle with the language, with the Arabic identity, the pressure of integrating and then your discovery that something is wrong, that I don't speak Arabic, or in my relationship for Iraq, this is something also that tells something about trajectories of migration. And your film, Farah, also tell us a lot, like from this gaze, like from inside, about Tripoli as a city, about the revolution, about the protests, about the crisis of Lebanon. And I think it's from a perspective that could be very richer, because it's subtle. That's why it's also a deeper access to understand these problems and contexts.
And I think what I would want to add maybe is that it's a positionality where you're not there to defend,
Exactly,
or to,
yeah.
you know, or to. It's not a propaganda, or it's not like you're not coming to justify why you're like this, or you're just there, you know. And this is what the attitude that I like to be leading with when working.
Mm-hmm. And then, please.
Yes, so it's actually two questions, but I'll keep them very brief. One is maybe coming from my personal experience. If I think about my parents, they're Moroccan in Italy. They got comfortable in being unseen, and the idea of showing them and showing their story is something that scares them so much. So I wonder if you had to deal with this feeling of danger in putting them in front of an audience, and what it could mean, and the volatility of their rights in countries, and not having citizenship. And I mean, I'm wondering how that was something that if you had to think about it. And then the second question, just more generally, as you mentioned already, the archive and trying to research footage of our families in this region is so hard and so difficult. There isn't much. And I'm wondering if you know of movements that are preserving this type of footage, if there is any type of collections of also these very intimate home videos of the diaspora, for example.
So the question is for Samira, right?
Well,
yeah.
Mostly, yes.
Mostly.
Which region are your parents from?
My mom is from Casablanca.
Okay.
My dad is from Farah.
About the question of the archives, we can exchange contacts, and I will give you some insight, because actually of Casablanca and the more central and south region, there is a lot more archives to find, in French archives and also Moroccan archives. With the Rif question, it's a little bit different. So about, I didn't felt like my parents, I don't know what your background is in Italy, but were comfortable being unseen or something like this, because as I said, the Moroccan diaspora in Brussels is very visible. Some people are unhappy about it, but we are very visible. And so it was not about being seen, it was about what people would see, you see. In my family, let's say, is conservative, and even though I'm not sure of what that means, but voila. But it was more about filming women was an issue. Filming my sisters, filming and how you deal with those bad bodies on screen. What you allow yourself to show of them, how you film them, how respectfully, you know, especially because of the colonial background, and we know how when you start to look at the archives, you see how the first contact with camera in our territories was the colonial camera, a camera who steals our image without our consent, and especially the woman's image. So it's a very sensitive question, and the film helped me actually to understand that it was a question. I didn't get it in the first place. You have to deal with all those complexities when you film. When I film my family, I could not like act as if it was not a problem. It was because of our education, and also because of the history and the relation with image and cinema. So there is no clear answer. It's something you have always to find the balance. And there are very practical things. My mother, she wears the veil, for example. I don't show her without her veil, point, for example. This is something.
Thank you so much. The conversation is very rich. I got inspired. I learned a lot, and I hope our audience as well would have loved if we could talk more. But I know that Farah is also very tired, and it's time to rest. And
I can. No, but can I say one thing?
Please,
Because I love how the question was framed.
Please.
Like got comfortable being unseen. It touched me enormously, and I just like the first thing that came to my mind is I think how they are looked at and by whom makes a big difference. Who's revealing the gaze, and is it with attention, with care? I mean, there's something about how how we look, and if there's scrutiny, of course they want to be unseen. And like Samira said, you here we are visible or made. I mean here because I also live in Brussels, but we are visible or made visible. Forced to be visible. But then who is looking at you, and in which way? Is it with care, attention? I think if that could be a leading a way to lead you into making this film with them, and also to involve them, in the gaze.
Yeah, also me with my father came when he was 35 years old. He was living in Iraq before, and exiled and in prison and tortured and blah 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 from a lot of years. And I think he felt so much about to be Arabic in France, and he wanted that we don't cross the same problems. Then he wanted us, it's this generation of you don't speak Arabic, you are in France just to integrate. And this integration made that he couldn't even alone go to a shop to buy something. He was afraid of the society. But I became the opposite of him because I had no fear. He's like, he's feeling that something wrong. And me, I travel all over. And finally, to make a film on him also show we have to talk about these people who are not, because we know them and they are our parents and we are the children. And so finally, it's as you said, Farah, it's exactly this place to show these people who are so rich, and they are, so that's it.
Thank you so much for this amazing, inspirational conversation. I enjoyed it a lot. I hope you too. You still can watch We Are Inside at Transtopia at 7:30, and don't miss Samira's screening tomorrow at 7 in Transtopia, or here in Wolf on Tuesday at 9:30. And there are 2 days to go still in the festival, so check out program and see you soon.
Thank you.
And if you want to get in touch, please feel free to get in touch, and we can talk always.
Thank you.
I know, I said that I wish I was there with you for the screening, enjoy the screening, and go to the bathroom before and eat before, because it's 3 hours. Just to intimidate you, but
This is amazing.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I love it, really. And I'm so happy that it's recorded because it's so really it's inspiring.